Hello and welcome to the West Cornwall Business Club monthly Hangout on Air. And this month we've got quite a special show. We've got Dave Webster again with us from Reading, and we've got Pat Scully from Stevens Slate, and we've also got Phil Sissons from Magic Consulting, and me and Sue from Genius Loci. And there's three things we'd like to cover in this month's show. One of them is going to be 4G mobile, which for those of us watching in Cornwall, it's something that has a mythical status because we don't have it, and it looks, from when we talk today, it's going to be something that really will kind of turbocharge our abilities on Google Plus at least. We're also going to talk to Pat about a recent benefit meal for noodling fishermen, which was the Fish Mish Bash, and also Pat will be telling us about a new Hangout on Air he's going to do on that. And then all of us are going to talk about what social media platforms tend to fall behind when we realise we need to get paid. so I thought we'd start off by just let the panel introduce themselves. So hello to Dave near Caversham Bridge in Reading. Hi, Dave.
Hello.
So you're broadcasting actually on from a phone in a car. This is, you know, magic stuff, really.
I am indeed, yes.
So do you think you'll be able to do your Webster consulting from the car itself?
Well, the plan is to do it from some exotic beach one day, so it's all part of the plan, yes.
Yeah, well, we have exotic beaches here.
I set myself up for that, didn't I?
You did really. Did really. And hi, Pat, and what have you been up to in the last few days?
Hi everyone. Well, we've been really busy. We've been had a rush of orders that we've had to get out in time for Easter, including 2 or 3 sort of real rush jobs that people said, oh, you know, can you please do this for us? So we've pulled out as many stops as we can, and we were off out delivering tomorrow, which is why we won't be at the Falmouth breakfast in the morning. But we're looking forward to having a couple of days off, even if the weather forecast isn't looking too brilliant. So yeah, it's been very hectic.
Okay, and over to you, Phil. What kind of a week have you had?
The week's been quite entertaining. Over the last couple of 3 weeks, I've been bidding with a new organisation I'm working with to look at getting grants out of the Ministry of Justice, which is in Petty, France, and we put forward a bid to get 100 grand, and sadly, although we went up on Thursday to do sort of a clarification interview and a shortlisting interview, we came third, which is not outstandingly good really, because first was the one to do. Having said that, for an organisation that's probably about 8 folk, relying heavily on grants, we were competing, it turns out, with multi-million-pound businesses providing support for prisoners and offenders into the UK's jails. There were 29 responses for this bid. We came third.
That's not bad then.
Impressive, really, considering we only started the business probably 3 or 4 months ago. From a standing start, that's pretty good. And they were quite impressed. And one of the things that came up is one of the guys we were meeting with is one of the leading lights on the use of information technology inside prisons. And as I move into a new area, there's a lot of things that I realise I don't actually know, not having been at Her Majesty's pleasure ever, that I'm going to own up to, that is. One of the big challenges is actually getting offenders to be able to still communicate with their families. And we talked about using Hangouts on Air to actually use that. They use Skype at the moment, but it's an interesting exercise. If you get caught for an offence in Cornwall, the nearest prison is in Exeter, if you're a man. If you're a woman, the nearest prison is in France.
Oh my God.
If you want one that speaks English, that's in Gloucestershire. So it's an interesting exercise, as I say, as I've learnt some new things. But it's been a good week.
Okay.
Coming third.
Brilliant. And Sue, what are you up to before we move on?
Well, I'm busy preparing for my show tomorrow, where I'll be playing some of my tracks and talking about my Coastal Composer project. So I'm busy preparing for that at the moment.
Excellent. Right. Okay. Our first subject is 4G. So I'm going to go to Dave now and tell us about how long have you had 4G and what do you see as the benefits of it as a tool for business?
I was pleasantly surprised actually to know that I was getting 4G. I think I should do a bit of product placement here. I had a contract with 3 and a Samsung Galaxy S3, and it was working. The phone was just working really poorly, very much like a Microsoft machine actually. So I thought the sensible thing to do is to just flatten it and do a factory rebuild. But because it was my kind of primary form of communication, I thought it was a bit risky, not being able to contact customers. So it gave me a wonderful opportunity to go and buy a Nexus 5. So I thought, well, I'll go and do that, and I just swapped the SIM card over from the first phone to the second phone, and was pleasantly surprised that Google Apps just reinstalled itself on my new phone, and it just got better because I then looked at the signal on the Nexus 5 and then realised I was getting 4G automatically. I didn't have to pay a penny. So my standard 3 contract has upgraded me to 4G. So I think, Phil, refresh my memory, did we get to know each other through Ronnie Bintzer?
I think so, yeah, we did, yeah.
So obviously Ronnie is called the Hangout Helper, and based in the United States, went down to the South by Southwest show in Texas and was impressing us all with his mobile outside broadcast. So I thought, well, I'll just try to see what happens straight out of the box with this Nexus phone, and as you can see, I've been very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it looks good because I know one of the things that Pat wanted to do last month was actually broadcast outside, so we could see him actually working on the slate business he runs, but he couldn't actually get the iPad to work. But this looks like, with this kind of technology, does anyone else know? Are we getting this in 2015 in Cornwall? Has anyone got any idea when 4G arrives?
No idea at all. I've seen very little mentioned about it. In fact, I think the general consensus of opinion is that have they not been taking masts down here instead of putting more masts up to increase coverage? I did have a chat with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. His other half works in mobile telecoms regulations, quite a high-powered job, and it's where all the manufacturers get together with the providers, and they set out what's going to happen on certain bandwidths, and it was quite complicated, but they shift things around within certain bandwidths and then do different things. I know that they were looking at they need more, I think it's long wave transmitters for this area because of the geographical layout of the county. It needs a certain type of configuration down here, but there's no real, rather than augment the current system, from what I've been able to understand, is they've actually been making things worse because they've been taking the infrastructure away, which surely isn't going to make things easy for any progress at all. I can only see it making things worse. I don't know.
Yeah, true. We just got a comment from Sheila who says, "The picture is brilliant, Dave." So
thank you, Sheila.
That's fantastic.
It's very encouraging.
Yeah, it's very encouraging.
It's better than a lot of people's regular.
Well, actually, we were doing a Hangout on Air a couple of weeks ago with people from the UK, and the picture wasn't anywhere as sharp as yours is now, Dave. So it really will make a difference, I think.
It might be worth obviously trying on the standard technology that we use, you know, the Logitech high definition camera, but this is coming straight off the Nexus 5, straight out of the box. So I haven't done anything.
So you're just broadcasting from a phone? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're balanced very succinctly on my dashboard, and I'm trying to stay very still. I don't know how to put a lower third on, but after the last Hangout on Air I did with Pat, you had a few difficulties, so I wondered whether you might be able to help me with my lower third.
I don't know if I wouldn't know how to put a lower third on a phone. No, that sounds quite.
It's a step too far.
That's I haven't gone there yet.
No. Do you think it's possible though to do?
It must be. I presume Ronnie Bincer, when they broadcast from Texas, must have had one, so it must be possible.
Well, it's really quite incredible. I agree with what I mean, obviously, what everyone else is saying. I mean, if we could get 4G down here, I mean, it would just revolutionise stuff. I mean, it's the demonstration we're getting from Dave there in Reading is just.
It's fantastic, isn't it? It really is. Sheila says that she's just switched from Orange to BT because I could do a one bill for all her BT contracts, and since then, her mobile has been useless, hardly any signal anywhere. I think it just depends on coverage, doesn't it? I mean, me and Sue have got different carriage operators, and it's very variable. Whoever you're with in Cornwall, I think.
I have to say, I think there are areas in the UK, Cornwall being one, and Wales being another, where mobile coverage is it's unreliable, I would say. But one of the reasons that I chose to go with 3 was they have a contract where you can tether, which basically means you can use your mobile as your modem, if you like, so you can connect your iPad or your laptop PC to your mobile and just, you know, take the benefits of 4G that way as well, and that really does open a whole loads of opportunities, because like we said when we were in the green room, the performance that you get with 4G is very close to super broadband on a landline. So it just means that you can literally work from anywhere. It's fantastic.
Well, one of the best ones I've seen was in America. It was a real estate company, and there was 2 of them talking about the house. So they were obviously using the camera on the laptop to tell people about the house, and then when they wanted to show people around, they just picked up the mobile and walked around with it in front of them and showed everybody all the rooms. And that was done via a Hangout on Air to sell houses. So and that was based on using 4G. So I think there are lots of opportunities in using it, really.
Definitely.
Sheila's come up with another maybe an alternative for the lower third for people in a car and a mobile phone. Wear a big badge.
That's a good idea. Or a printed T-shirt.
Or a printed T-shirt, yeah, that would work. Okay, well, we can all look forward to that then, because I think it's going to make a huge difference. I'd like to now pass over to Pat, who's been working with Mullion Cove Hotel, because we had, as you know, some severe storms in Cornwall at the beginning of the year. And one of the groups of people that really suffered was actually the fishermen in Newlyn, who weren't able to go out in their boats at all. And if they don't go out, they don't earn. And so, Pat, could you tell us a little about this benefit kind of project?
Yeah, I know, talking to Fiona, it became apparent through her contacts with guys at Directly Fish, who are based down in Newlyn, and various other suppliers, that the fishermen had really had a really bad time of it. And I think, to a certain extent, outside of the county anyway, I think people just didn't realise that fishermen, if they don't work, they don't get paid. But of course, with the storms, it was far worse than that. It wasn't just a case of not being able to work. A number of them have lost their boats. Many of them have had all their gear destroyed. Their nets and their pots have gone. So you know, the fallout from this is far greater than a lot of people ever really knew. and what they wanted to do was what she wanted to do was try and put something back and raise some awareness of the plight of the fishermen. And one way was to do that was through the Fisherman's Mission, which is a support mechanism for the fishing or the fishing industry. And because they do divvy money out on a need basis, it's not like it's going to an individual boat or an individual fisherman. It goes into like this central pot, and then the people in Newlyn that are dependent on the mission, and these are proud people. They get support when it's needed through the mission itself. So it was a really important thing, and there was a good turnout at Mullion Cove. Fiona did a great job in the evening. First time I've ever had sort of like a fish only dinner throughout a whole evening. We decided to do a follow-up Hangout on Air event, which is on the 23rd at 7 p.m. I've already posted the event onto Google+, so I shall put that out a couple more times to make sure we get as much coverage as possible. I was quite surprised to find that the initial video that we did, the initial Hangout, has had quite a number of views. So let's hope that can be repeated, and I dare say donations can still be made to the Fisherman's Mission. But if you're watching from anywhere, not just in Cornwall, there are fishermen's missions all over the place. So if you feel like giving a couple of quid, then pop along or find out where your nearest fisherman's mission is, and chuck them a fiver or whatever, because it'll be money that's really well spent, and to a section of the working community that gets very little support from anybody. I know the government has put some money in to help replace some of the lost gear, but I don't know how that actually works. So I can't say any more than that on that particular thing.
Okay, so it's a good point to remember that whenever you do a Hangout on Air, you may, if you keep looking down to how many viewers you've got, you might feel as if, there's hardly anyone watching. But it's the Hangout on Air takes on a life of its own once it's out there, and once it turns into the YouTube video, and that's when it picks up most of the traction and interaction, I think. So that's great news, Pat, that it's gained quite a few views. That's brilliant. So that's fantastic news. Right, our third topic is social media, which we're on it now, and we're on it all the time, and we always read all these top 5 things you should do on Pinterest or Google Plus or Facebook, and a lot of the authors behind these fantastic posts, I might add, seem to not realise that many of us have to get paid and actually do some work every so often. So I was just interested to know that when we are going out and doing chargeable hours, which social media platforms kind of drop off the perch, so to speak, and which ones do we focus on? So who would like to jump in with that? So which one do you think loses out?
Well, if I could pitch in first, when I'm actually doing a particular job, I have to say that for my work and paid hours, and probably an hour or two either side, they all do. Because there needs to be a focus on what you're doing for the clients. Having said that, at the time when there's a bit of sort of outside time, from my personal point of view, my business and photography stuff is actually on Google+. My private activity is on Facebook, and I use LinkedIn. So the one that I find that probably doesn't support the delayed response or delayed activity is Twitter. Because that seems to me to be very immediate in terms of a conversation rather than a longer term talk. So I tend and have, because I've been working quite in a concentrated manner last 3 or 4 weeks, haven't tweeted for some time.
Yeah, good. I think there's a good point about Twitter. Has a lot of I don't know if it's like this for you, Dave, but down here in Cornwall we have like Cornwall Hour, Dutchy Business Hour, all sorts of different things. They happen in the moment they're going to happen in, and if you're busy, you've just missed it. You can't go back later and interact with anything because it's gone. The moment's gone. So that is true about Twitter. You're either available or you're not. You can't go and catch up with something. It's like busking. in social media world. You walk past somebody and they've said something. If you didn't walk past them, you didn't hear it.
No, I'd agree.
Great point. I mean, yeah, very good point actually, Phil. I mean, as avid users of Twitter as we are, I never actually thought about Twitter being like that, but yeah, I suppose it's right. Yeah, I mean, you can scan back, but if it's an event that's taking place, a la Cornwall Hour, for example, it's gone once the hour's finished. And if you're otherwise engaged at that point, then you've missed that whole thing altogether. Yeah, it's a very good point, actually.
Yeah, whereas you know, Google Plus, like Hangout on Air, if you've missed it, you can catch up and watch it later, and you can still comment with the people who were there. And on Facebook, really, I suppose if somebody said something that's raised a huge discussion, you can still go and interact with it. But that would be, I suppose, the thing about Twitter. You have to turn up, otherwise you just miss it.
But I think each platform has its pros and cons, doesn't it? I think certainly from a business perspective, I think most businesses use that as their primary with a, you know, if it's here and now. I think, you know, going back to your point about Twitter, I think if you're in the restaurant business and you're wanting to keep the restaurant tables fully booked and you can throw out a last minute cancellation, I think it's great for things like that. But I think they all have their own pros and cons. I mean, Facebook, I think, is very much kind of consumer to consumer, business to consumer, but business to business, I think Google Plus works really, really well. I think it's got a lot of integration, like you said, and the thing I really like about Google Plus is the fact you can, whether you have your personal profile or your company profile page, you can list all the other platforms that you're on a social platform on. So from a Google perspective, that means that Google knows about your LinkedIn or your Facebook account or your Twitter account, which will all go towards your authorship status when authorship is switched on later this year. So I think they all have, yeah, they're all brilliant tools, but there isn't a one-size-fits-all would be my comment, really.
When is just you've mentioned authorship, when does that actually go live, Dave?
I wish I knew the answer to that question. It's mooted to be sometime this year, but I haven't heard anything officially yet.
And this is, for those of you who aren't aware, it's what gives us even more authority, really. So it really is making your kind of authentic self, where you write, who you write for, all the different kind of streams that you're connected with. It brings it all together. So it will be a good thing.
Well, I can certainly say, since that I've switched on authorship and used all my social feeds, my organic ranking has just doubled in performance. So it definitely works. And from the the person that's using Google to find things out, the idea behind authorship is that you find what you want first time, and the more Google has on the business or the individual that's offering the service, the easier it is to obviously introduce the person looking for what you offer to you. So I found it to be extremely useful.
Okay. I also agree that where you say about Facebook is more consumer to consumer, well, person to friends, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cats. And business to consumer works really well, but business to business on Facebook doesn't work at all. Have we disappeared?
Yeah, but we seem to have lost you, Phil, somewhere there. All I've got is a.
Can you still hear us?
I can still hear you. Yeah.
Oh, so okay, maybe we'll come back in a second.
Probably had a 3G moment.
Having a something moment.
Yeah.
Picking up on your point, what you just saying about the platforms that get left behind. I mean, I've never really got to grips with LinkedIn. It's never really done me any good whatsoever. And I've only had profiles there simply because everyone else has got one there, really. And although I've made contacts with people, you link up with people, to use their phraseology, there's never been anything meaningful ever come from it. So for me, the one thing that gets left, and you made a comment earlier, Phil, about, oh, I've not been on LinkedIn for ages. Oh, I had a LinkedIn moment today, in actual fact. I thought, oh, I've not been on LinkedIn for ages. I better go and put something on there. And that's not really best use. So if I was going to ditch one, Right now, it would have to be LinkedIn, and that's certainly the one that I just don't really use very much.
I think I can understand that. I actually find that I have I've been on LinkedIn for probably 8 or 9 years, which makes me probably very ancient in social media terms. But I found LinkedIn to be a good source of finding people that I used to work with who've now moved into different areas, different businesses, and by maintaining those contacts, actually has generated some business and some contract for me. So I have found that to be very useful, obviously. As far as Twitter is concerned, as I said before, unless you're in the moment and selling something that's very immediate, and that would suit the restaurant trade and probably what you're doing, Pat, it doesn't suit me.
Yeah.
It's much more a sort of a relationship over a period of time where there is no actual product in a physical sense.
Yeah.
Facebook is really good, for maintaining contacts with people who are not only I'm linked in with, but also are more friend oriented. My cat spends a lot of time on Facebook. He's very clear, because there's so many other cat videos, but which is one of its downsides, I have to say. But I'm finding, again, from the photography business that I'm building, that the Google Plus and Pinterest are actually coming up as quite useful contact points. Pinterest for some of the, not necessarily for contacts per se, but for ideas in terms of, where to take pictures, if you're going to visit somewhere, who's taken those pictures before, those sorts of things, style activities. So there's a range, and I think a lot of it depends on what your business interests and your personal interests are.
What about you, Sue? What works best for you?
Well, it's a mixture between Google Plus and Facebook, I think, but it depends what I'm doing, really. For my classical strings business, I would say probably Twitter. Haven't had much success on Facebook for that. But with Twitter, what I do is have my Twitter feed on the homepage of my website, so people can see my latest news, which you're probably going to say I should have a blog for that. Wait for the criticism. Facebook works well for me as a musician. So it's a bit of a mix-up, really. I don't really get much from LinkedIn at all, although I've got a lot of important contacts on there. There doesn't seem to be much interaction.
And there is one more that we've it does very often get overlooked when you have conversations like this, and that's YouTube. I mean, that is a social platform as well, and that is massive in terms of being able to expand your audience globally. It's a fantastic platform.
But I suppose that comes into the Google Plus and the Hangouts on Air, doesn't it? Because you're doing both at the same time in some respects, and it's a lot easier to actually do it this way because you haven't got to worry about uploading the video after the event. It all happens for you. So I think this is why this particular technology is so good, really.
I saw one of these infograms a little while ago pass before my eyes. I might circulate it, which was almost like the answer to all things to do with social media. And it said, a recommendation how to find the time was to look and see where you were getting most feedback, and then spend on an hour a day something like 15 minutes on Google Plus, 10 minutes on Facebook, 5 minutes on Twitter, 5 minutes on this, and generating some stuff for your blog. Sad man that I am, I actually patrolled that and made it so that I spent an hour a day doing some stuff in that sort of time frame. Two things that came out of it. One, I talk too much, and therefore it actually takes longer than the 5 minutes for me to do anything. So it now turns out to be 4 days instead of an hour. Not quite that bad, I have to say. But it was quite useful when I started off with a particular proposed mix of time per social media site. and then flexed it to that which suited me a little bit more. And I think, and Sue's commented on it before, you have to actually focus on doing some of this stuff. And that, I think, is quite the challenge, which comes back to the point where when we're out trying to earn some money, we don't have the time to focus on it, so something's going to fall by the wayside. But I've found with LinkedIn, just communicating to people and just, when LinkedIn comes up and suggests a link, I actually, have a little bit of a conversation with them backwards and forwards by message. And in some cases, exchange telephone numbers and we have a chat, even to the point of doing that before I accept their link. And that, again, starts the process of a conversation, which is really, we'd use different words, but the conversation, the discussion, is what we're all trying to achieve, whether it's Twitter or Google Plus or any of the other social media. It's a conversation with somebody who might buy our product or service, or somebody I can sell something to.
Yeah, very true. And I think it's making sure that, as you say, Phil, because if you do an hour a day, it's still by the end of the week, it's almost a day's work that's been spent on social media. So I think you've got to make sure that the noise you do make on social media is meaningful, because otherwise you could just end up ticking off, done Facebook, done Twitter, done Pinterest, and all you've done is quickly cut and paste almost the same thing into each pot, really, which isn't necessarily going to bring anything back.
Most of my posts are actually in way past dark o'clock.
Way past dark o'clock.
Or wine o'clock.
Or wine o'clock, yeah. Or beer o'clock, whatever.
I'm teetotal o'clock.
Of course, yeah.
You're just trying to show us up now.
Yeah.
Going for the sympathy vote. It works every time,
Have we got time left, Phil, to briefly talk about social media platforms? What are we out of?
Yeah, no. Let's.
Sorry, excuse me. 2 seconds. Can I call you back?
It's going to be in the outtakes as well.
Yeah. See, if it would have ended 2 minutes ago, we would have missed that.
Missed the
and now we've got that on YouTube forever.
Okay.
This is part of the how to manage your time section of the Hangout on Air.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, you were saying, Pat. You were saying.
Yeah, we touched on it in the green room, and it was about the social media platforms, about having a choice.
Yeah.
And I don't know what everyone else's thoughts are. I know Google is trying to pull everything into, put all the platforms into a single platform. Was probably the best way to describe it. So it becomes something of everything, and I almost see that as a thing where they want Google to be the only platform that we ever use. I think it would be a terrible thing if the only option open to us by default is Google Plus, and that platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook, even if whether you like these or not, I think it would be a really bad thing for everybody generally not to have the option to pursue these other avenues, and to be forced into having to use Google beyond anything else, in much the way they've taken over the search engine business, where Google is the default search engine pretty much. I don't think we all want to be pushed into a corner where Google social media is the only social media that we get a choice to use.
No, I don't agree.
I don't think that will happen at the end of the day. I mean, that's the great thing about having multiple corporations or multiple platforms. People do have choice, and I think that keeps that sort of thing from happening personally. I do think as these companies have gone from startups and they've obviously gone to the stock exchange and IPO'd, I mean, they have to answer to shareholders, and I think there's a lot of crossover I think now Twitter's a publicly listed company, that you can certainly see that they're kind of trying to work more in the business market. I think LinkedIn, you could say the same, and I just think competition is healthy. So that that scenario, Pat, that you painted there will never happen.
Good.
In my opinion.
Good.
Yeah, and I think some businesses will always need all of them. I mean, I've got some hotel clients with like 5,000 or 6,000 people who follow their Facebook page. Those people aren't going to jump to Google Plus. They're going to stay on Facebook. That's where they live. So you're looking at building up audiences on different platforms, really.
Definitely.
Just had a big comment coming from Anthony D'Souza. How important is email marketing to each of your businesses? Is it more important than social media? Well, for me, it isn't. We do everything on social media. Does anyone else use email marketing more than social media?
No, I never.
We've used email marketing, and there's quite a lot of, like you were saying, Phil, with regards to these people's blogs in terms of how you should use social media for marketing, and then a lot of them start with a huge, list of contacts that you then sort of send your bulletin to, whether you'll be doing a Hangout or another online event. I think they all, from what I can see, start from a big database of contact names, and as you kind of get to understand your audience, obviously you have traditional customers that you've known for numbers of years, and then obviously you're trying to attract new ones. So I think it's like everything, isn't it? There isn't a one-size-fits-all. It's a combination of everything, really.
And it's what's best for you and your business, because all
Definitely.
of us, whatever we do, we're unique. And so, as you say, what we read and the best 5 things you should do, whether it's social media or blogging or marketing, may not work for the next person along the line, really.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's also, again, related to a time and focus. So, timing and focus. What I've found is it's been quite useful to be able to do to a small list of people who are ex-clients, people who've contacted, people who've signed up for an email newsletter, perhaps rather than an email marketing pitch.
What's happened? Oh, hello? What did he say?
I don't know.
Hello?
Hello, what happened there?
I don't know what happened there at all. That's
Strange,
very
isn't
new.
it?
I had not had that happen before.
Things are quiet.
Yeah, we're back now.
Oh,
Something strange going on.
Dave's back as well. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's well, I've not seen that happen
It's all
before.
happening
It's
today.
all happening today. Must be a Google Plus thing. That's what I'm going to think.
Yeah.
I got a message flash there that said the Google Hangout was finishing.
Right. Okay. Maybe they thought we've gone over time, but it doesn't normally do that. Usually, it lets you just run on. Unless it's
If I can just finish off, I think there is a timing and focus activity. Where the timing is probably more slower time than any of the social media. So I'd probably put newsletters out, small ones, which point to a website where all the content and the detail is, probably once every 6 to 8 weeks. So it's maintaining that slow time contact.
Yeah.
The focus is it's those people who've signed up for it, rather than, so they've made a conscious decision to get information from me because they understand or they like the humour or whatever, like the level of abuse that I give out in these newsletters. Other people have actually come in from the Twitter, the Google Plus and the Facebook because they either know me or they've just uncovered me through a contact of a contact of a contact. So there's less of a, what I might call a business or personal focus there. It's more sort of a, well, it's like I've met him in the pub and he seemed to be all right. Let me just stand around while he's talking for a bit and see whether it fits in.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we better close now because we've run over a little bit. But thanks very much, everybody. Dave, Pat, and Phil, and it's me and Sue, and we've had a great time and learnt a lot about 4G, and we all know what Caversham Bridge looks like now, which is fantastic. And don't forget to when's your follow-up Hangout on Air, Pat, for your Fisherman's Mission?
It's Wednesday the 23rd. That's at 7 p.m. I've already listed the event, and I'll put a couple of reminders out over the next couple of days. But please, anyone, if you want to come along, we'll do the same as what Phil's been doing here. We'll try and get questions on the screen or comments on the screen. Just be interesting to see people come along and watch the event. It'd be great.
Okay, well, thanks so much, everybody, and thanks, Phil, as well, for joining us again, as usual, and we'll see you all again next month. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
Cheerio.
Bye.